Hello, everyone, and welcome to Did You Know It's All in the Heights? I'm your host, Rhina Valentin, and today we're celebrating legacy businesses in the Washington Heights district. Our program will introduce you to and or rediscover the arts, culture, food, and history in the community. Let's take a look at how the Heights is rising.
This beautiful place came out of a time when many would have said, chalk it up. You know, the community is done for. But it rises. Given hope, given the right formula, given the right love and guidance, it rises. Look at the vibrancy, look at Broadway, look at St. Nicholas, look at the new businesses. It's never not been a worthy place.
Here now to share more behind the relationship New York City Small Business Services offers as a navigator for over 230,000 businesses. Please welcome New York City Small Business Services Commissioner Greg Bishop. Hello and welcome.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for making the time to be here with us.
Of course, it's always happening in the Heights. So
it's always happening in the Heights. Well, now we're going to inform everyone else of what's happening in the Heights. Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about the New York City Small Business Services services.
Yeah.
No,
so we're a city agency, and just like the fire department, the police department, our job is really to focus on helping small businesses. A lot of people don't know about us, and that's one of the challenges. And we work to help entrepreneurs start, expand, and operate their businesses. But we also have a workforce component, so we help New Yorkers prepare for the jobs of tomorrow. And as we're going to talk about, we also have a neighborhood development component where we focus on commercial corridors and help strengthen and create vibrant commercial corridors.
So the video we just watched is a part of a program called Avenue NYC,
Correct.
Right? And the Neighborhood Design Lab.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit more about those programs?
So those are grants that we make to partner organizations across the city. Obviously, as a city, we can't do it by ourselves. We have to work with local organizations. They have the skill sets, they understand the community, they know what the community needs. So it's a competitive process where individual organizations will apply for a grant to actually help with either district marketing or commercial revitalization or any other program that we think is necessary to actually help the small businesses in that particular community.
So how does one qualify for that? Is there a certain criteria that needs to be met?
So it's an application process, and an organization, you have to be a 501c3. There's some basic things. You have to be, an entity that's operating in New York City. But once you apply, you submit an application and you tell us exactly what you want to do in the community. And then we actually review your application. We look at the needs of the community and we figure out whether or not that's a good match. And then we make an investment through the grant to that organization.
So just to be clear and so that everybody understands, right? Because you're offering services to the small businesses. However, there's an alliance and an organizing that's required in order to do so. So can you just share a little bit about the structure?
Right. So, a lot of small businesses, they come to us and, there's a lot of challenges that small businesses face in just running their business. A lot of business owners are busy running their business on a day-to-day basis. So one of the things we want to do is figure out ways to organize those business owners. And sometimes they don't have the time to do that. And usually there's an umbrella organization that's working in the community that's trying to advocate on behalf of those small businesses. They're probably advocating for more marketing or more sanitation services or more security or even, as simple things as holiday lights. So those are the organizations that we focus on to actually build the capacity of, to actually get the resources that they need to actually implement the ideas that they have to make that commercial stronger and more visible and viable.
Right, which in essence brings the entire neighborhood together.
Correct. So in some cases, like some organizations may have an event, and that event actually has a cost to it. But once they get the funding, that event brings customers to that particular corridor, and that's helpful for the businesses in that area.
It's great because I was just going to lead me to loving your local and the importance of just the revitalization of the economy and pretty much getting people out to shop versus shopping online.
Right. Well, one of the things that we depend on a lot with our local organizations is to understand, consumer patterns. And we know that consumer behavior has changed over the years. A a lot of people are taking, they're buying online. Most of the times when you look at folks now, it's through their smartphones. So if you're a business in the community and you've been in the community for years and you have not adapted, you're not searchable on Google or whatever search engine that people use, or you don't have an online presence, period, that could be a disadvantage for you as a small business owner. But we also, so a lot of the programming that we focus on is to help businesses adapt to actually the new technology. We help the local organizations to teach those businesses how to use those new technologies to reach new customers. But more importantly, we also want to make sure we educate the customers, right? Because when you make a decision to buy online, what you're really doing is you're denying that sale to that local business. And then that local business then has to lay off their employees, which tend to be, and we know, small businesses are the economic engine of the city. It's actually not the large corporations. It's a smaller business that's hiring within their neighborhoods. So if they're laying off, that means more of your neighbors will be unemployed. So there's like a cascading effect. When you buy online, you're literally robbing the neighborhood from resources because those small businesses can't hire within the neighborhood. And so unemployment rises, and then that small business goes out of business, and then that storefront is vacant. So now that corridor it's empty and it's unsafe. So I can go on and on in terms of like
about the layers
what happens,
and the effect that it has on
exactly.
just taking the time to go out and meet your neighbors.
Right. And so we created a program called Love Your Local, where we're testing different interventions for long-standing businesses. And these are businesses that have been in the community. They're staples of the community for over 20, 30, 40 years. So they need to adapt to changing. The community may have changed, and we know New York is dynamic. New York City is dynamic. We have 8.6 million people in the city, so different neighborhoods have changed. So maybe tastes have changed, or maybe the needs of the community has changed. So those businesses need to adapt, and that's why local organizations are helpful in actually helping those businesses to adapt to the change.
Wonderful. And before we go, just share with us why this matters to you so much.
Well, it's so important for us as a city, and for me, because number one, I'm an immigrant. My grandmother was an entrepreneur, and if it wasn't for my grandmother focused on building her business, I wouldn't be here. So many times business owners are not necessarily in it to actually make money for themselves. They're making money to change their generation. So it's important for us to actually help our small businesses succeed in New York City because it just makes New York City a great city. It makes our commercial corridors vibrant, and it makes the city a great place to be.
Absolutely. And in addition, it builds community with personality.
With personality.
Thank you so much for being here.
I can't believe
with
we're
us.
like over already.
I know.
Well, I'll have to come back again.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you. Thank you once again, Commissioner. You guys
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Once again, to learn more about the opportunities offered by New York City Small Business Services, please visit www.nyc.gov/SBS. Now, let's take a look at how the Community League of the Heights plans to revitalize an empowered Washington Heights.
This morning we've gathered a variety of folks together, and we're going to have a conversation about how do we bring our community into our small businesses.
A district marketing plan made the most sense. The first page over here, the tagline. Did you know it's all on the Heights? Very preliminary. These are the kiosks right over here. Maybe we could, on a bus shelter, advertise where all the restaurants are located.
This is great.
Yeah, isn't that great? This is meant to help all small businesses.
Folks will leave the room with homework, and that homework is to continue thinking about initiatives, ideas, thoughts of how to engage with our community, and what does that look like? What does that plan look like?
So we like what we see so far? Oh yeah, I can see it being very successful.
The community is a diamond in the rough. We can help polish that diamond and get it to the point where it sparkles so bright.
Here now to discuss more on the efforts being made to engage community in finding the hidden treasures of Washington Heights, please welcome Community League of the Heights Executive Director, Yvonne Stennett. Hello and welcome.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Let's start with just a simple thank you for your lifelong commitment to this community. It is really, really admirable to see somebody not only build their community, be their community. What is it about this particular community that has you so committed?
So I've had the privilege and the honor to now have worked in the neighborhood for 40 years in the same institution. And I've been able to see the changes. I've been able to see the neighborhood go through its ups and its downs. And through it all, there has been a sense of community, a sense of gratitude for where we are, for the vibrancy of where we are, for the love of where we are. And I think if there was nothing else that keeps me focused, is the fact that the people are so in love with where they are in this rich community that it makes you want to be a part of it. It makes you want to serve the community. It makes you want to see the richness always present.
This particular project, or a few projects, right, because they're grants combined into like one overall project, it's a huge undertaking, which kind of places you, even though it's the organization, Cloth, that is spearheading this, but you're the matriarch. It's almost like you're being this matriarch of this particular neighborhood. What kind of undertaking is that? I mean, how long of a plan is this?
So in all honesty, we have been working with our local small businesses since the 1980s in many different iterations. And getting to this point has been a labor of love. It's taken some time to get to a point, and maybe I want to back up and say the history of the changes that has been happening for our small businesses propelled us into having to do what we're doing today, which is trying to figure out what is a marketing strategy that's going to help our community, our small businesses, be able to survive, to thrive, to get back that sense of the culture and the richness and the economic base that they were so strong with in the 60s and the 70s. We've lost some of that, and we need to figure out how to get it back. So this has been an undertaking since the 80s, the 90s, and now here we are in 2019 trying to figure out how do we make sure that we don't lose any more of our small businesses, that we don't lose the culture, we don't lose those traditions anymore. The organization is grounded in our ability to make sure that we have a vibrant community. And in doing so, you have to make sure that when any sector of our community is suffering, you need to figure out a way to help rise them up, to help get them to a position where they can live and they can survive.
And so with this particular neighborhood plan, right, it's the neighborhood design grant, right, as well as Avenue NYC.
Yes.
What exactly are we talking about for how many years, right? Because you're kind of merging the community of residents together with the businesses. So what do you foresee happening moving forward?
So the effort is to make sure that our local businesses are being supported by our local residents, and also being able to attract new individuals, new entities to come and to support our existing small businesses. We want to see them to be able to not just survive,
right,
but to thrive,
yeah,
right? We want to make sure that we don't lose any more small businesses. It has been painstaking to see so much of our small moms and pops go under, to see the doors closing, to see the families who were once caretaking their business and thus caretaking their family not have the ability to do so anymore because of whatever economic changes has been happening in our neighborhood. So at the end of this, we would like to be able to say people are shopping much more in their neighborhoods. They're having conversations. The entrepreneurs are seeing that there is vitality in our neighborhood, that they can survive in our neighborhood, that we do have the strength in the unity of ourselves to make our community vibrant and to make it economically solvent.
Right. Beautiful and beautifully said. I don't really think there's much more to say other than, it's really about being with community and being with your neighbors and just getting to know each other and also contributing to the environment in which you're developing, right? Because if you live in that neighborhood, the businesses are part of that neighborhood and the environment itself is created based on everybody's contribution.
We can never forget our connectiveness.
Right.
We are not dichotomized. What we do helps another one, helps another one, helps another one. And I think if we continue to see ourselves as a whole community, right, then I think we'll survive and we'll thrive even better. But we have to understand our connectivity and our support of one another and the unity and how that unity can make us richer, stronger, and I'm just not talking about richer financially, I'm talking about richer in the human beings that we are.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you guys, to learn more about It's All in the Heights, visit cloth159.org or follow on social media at cloth159. We're taking a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear about one of the most prominent theaters in Washington Heights. Hello and welcome back to Did You Know It's All in the Heights? I'm Rhina Valentin. Our next jewel of a landmark is United Palace, Manhattan's fourth largest theater with nearly 3,400 seats, opening its doors approximately 90 years ago and through all its transitions, remains an inclusive spiritual center honoring the building's legacy through concerts, multimedia, productions, movie screenings, and spiritual programming. Here to share more, please welcome United Palace Executive Producer Mike Fiddleson. Hello and welcome.
Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being here. I love that everyone's taking the time to just make sure that everyone knows what's going on in the Heights. And as we just mentioned, United Palace is a landmark that must be visited when you visit Washington Heights. How long have you been involved with the United Palace?
I've been there for about 7 years now in a variety of different capacities.
And so those capacities prior to becoming executive producer consisted of?
So beginning in 2012, we created a new nonprofit arts organization called the United Palace of Cultural Arts to make sure the community had access to this amazing facility. And over the years, I got more and more involved with booking, which then created the executive producer role.
So when you say booking, we're talking about the events. So what kind of events are taking place there now? I mean, I kind of mentioned it in a generic form, but do you have a season? Like, what should people expect when they go visit the United Palace?
Well, first off, you should expect to be blown off your feet because you walk in the space is just spectacular. It's like somebody transplanted Versailles to Broadway and 175th Street. Everything is gilded and larger than life, just a spectacle to walk into. So we do a lot of concerts, everything from the former frontman of Roxy Music, Brian Ferry, was there a couple of weeks ago. We've got a lot of Spanish concerts coming up, like Barak and Silvestre Dangan. And then we have spiritual programming too, such as Deepak Chopra will be there on October 2nd. But you can also come to see a movie. And since the United Palace opened as a movie theater and vaudeville house back in 1930, we always try to honor that history by doing some sort of live entertainment for the movie, which could be anything from having Broadway stars and even guys like Peter Walsh come and sing before musicals like The Sound of Music, to before Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, we had a Brooklyn chocolatier do a chocolate demonstration on stage. And every now and then we get a superstar like our local native Lin-Manuel Miranda to come and introduce a movie and really get the audience jazzed before seeing a spectacle on a 50-foot screen.
Wow, so that's wonderful. That sounds exciting, right? Because it's more than just going to screen a movie.
Exactly.
And just because you mentioned Peter Walsh, I just want to let everyone know who he is. He's the co-owner of Coogan, so it's kind of interesting that you reference him as a celebrity, right? Because he's a celebrity of the neighborhood.
He's a local celebrity, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, and of course he's a personality too, which we love. And so when you mention these events and the way you're curating them, how does one go about keeping track of the different variations that you just mentioned?
Certainly. Well, everything's online,
Right.
unitedpalace.org. You can always keep track with us through that or social media, or just come by the building. It's beautiful. We've always got a sign out front telling you what's coming next.
And so is the building open every day?
It's not open every day because we have a lot of private activities, private events. We do a lot of film and TV shoots there as well. John Wick 3, part of that was shot there. A lot of activities in the community.
So how has that been for you, being the executive producer of this famous establishment?
Well, it's a lot of fun. You know, it's one of those jobs where I live in the neighborhood and I've lived there for a number of years. So it's always fantastic to be a part of something in my neighborhood that I can walk to, that I walk down the street and bump into people who say, hey, what's happening at the Palace? What's going there next? Or I love that last movie you showed. When's the next time you're going to show 101 Dalmatians or something like that? It's a great way of being connected with what's happening in the community.
So you get a lot of locals that are participating within the United Palace, not just people coming from different parts of the world, because it's like a landmark in the
Yes.
Washington Heights.
Yes.
So
Well, we're also always getting people from Brooklyn downtown, throughout the metropolitan area, and in Europe. Europeans love their theaters. So we get a lot of phone calls from people saying, I'm only going to be in New York for a couple of days. Can I come check out the Palace?
And so just because you mentioned that people should just come by, like, do you feel that the Palace isn't really recognized on the scale that it should based on the amount of people that live in New York?
Well, I think that in New York, everybody's always competing with everything else. What are you going to do today? You're going to go to the Statue of Liberty? Are you going to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art? Are you going to go to the United Palace? Or are you going to lie in bed and do Facebook all day? That's kind of what we're all competing with, right?
Oh my gosh, what choices, right? No, it's sad that we're living in a society where people are getting caught up just being online and not living life and being in the present and experiencing what life has to offer, such as beauties, the beauty of an establishment such as the United Palace. So,
and we think that that's really one of the joys of going to a theater, of being in a theater and having that human interaction where you're not just in your cocoon, your silo, you're sitting shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow with somebody who you don't know, enjoying the same experience at the same time and having that sense of humanity. And to us, this is where we bridge being a spiritual center and a theater, and we consider that spiritual artistry, where we're all artists inside and we need to have these moments where we recognize the artistry in each other, the humanity in each other. And oftentimes you do that through great art, a movie, a musical, plays.
beautiful. And thank you for providing that space and that platform, or maintaining it and managing it so that it's welcoming in such a manner. Thank you. And thank you
We're
for
happy
sharing
to do
it
that.
here with our viewers. And you guys, once again, for programs and events, please make sure to visit the United Palace, located on 4140 Broadway at 175th Street. To learn more, visit unitedpalace.org and be sure to follow them on Twitter at United Palace NYC. It's time to take a break and smell the flowers. Did you know Anthony Flowers has been in Washington Heights since 1963? Meet
Lambros Barbajanis, and I'm the owner of Anthony Flowers. Tony Macris, Tony Macris, sold it to Tom Pappas in '68. So Tom Pappas had it, that's my dad's cousin, he had it. Yeah, he passed away 2 years ago and I took it over after that. So now that we're back here, it reminds me of New York in the late 80s, early 90s again, when it was all the cultures of those big melting pot. And for me it's normal, it's back to usual. I went to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn for architecture, but I was always working in the flower shop, and so this provides me a way to create, design and create new things, and then run my own business that I like to do. Favorite part is when people call and say thank you for the beautiful work we've done.
And now you know it's all in the Heights. Welcome back to Did You Know It's All in the Heights? I'm Rhina Valentin. Art is a major contributing factor to a neighborhood's cultural identity. In 2006, the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance began with its mission to cultivate, support, and promote the works of artists and arts organizations in Northern Manhattan. To share more, please welcome Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance Executive Director, Joanna Castro. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Rhina. Thank you for having me.
And thank you. We're so excited to just share everything that's happening in the Heights. And you know, as an artist myself, I think it is so important to know the resources in which one can live off of their artistry and or their craft. And so organizations such as the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance is crucial to the vitality of the neighborhood. So just share with me a little bit about the services that you offer.
Sure. So we're an art service organization. We're one of very few throughout the city of New York. And our mission is to promote local artists, and we do that through several core programs. One is group exhibits. I'm excited to say that next year, next March, will be the 10th annual Women in the Heights exhibit, celebrating women and coinciding with Women's History Month.
Love that.
Yes,
Woo-hoo!
as you might know, next year is the 100th the 100th centenary of women's suffrage. So the 2020 is big on many different levels. It's also going to be the 18th annual Uptown Art Stroll, which is our month-long festival. Last year and this year, to give you an idea, we had over 300 events in 1 month, which is kind of crazy and kind of insane. And all of these are local artists and arts organizations. Yes,
just the
it's
thought
pretty
of
massive.
it, 300 events in 1 month.
Correct.
How do you manage that?
I don't know. I think my clone replaces me during this month.
Amazing.
I have a great team.
Uh-huh.
And so basically it's an umbrella festival. The idea is for artists and small arts organizations to create programming, and then this is what becomes the festival, and we promote it as a whole. Within the festival, we produce the opening, the closing, open studios. We've done live music in the park, art making in the park. This past June, celebrating Stonewall, and our brothers and sisters in Harlem had the Harlem Pride celebrating its 10th anniversary. So we did a panel program on the history of the LGBT community uptown. And we also did the Hop, which was a spoken word program in 2 local restaurants uptown.
So in essence, it's all genres of the arts, right?
Yes.
It's not just visual arts, it's performance art. And so how does one become part of the roster?
One of the easy ways is by following us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also getting our newsletter. We send out a bilingual, bi-weekly newsletter with events about NOMA, events around town, and opportunities. So I have it as my mission and the mission of NOMA to make sure that artists and artists of all disciplines know of all the opportunities, whether it's residencies, grants, any type of opportunities that we have uptown. I neglected to mention that the other component, the other program that we have at NOMA is what is called technical assistance. And we offer workshops throughout the year, whether it's social media, grant writing, budgeting, and we also produce a symposium, a day-long symposium, talking about different issues that affect the community.
That's wonderful, especially with artists, right? To kind of balance out the business aspect of their business, because artists just want to create. And then there's the business component that's required in order to be able to create freely, that is. Well, not necessarily freely, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
And so, so you're basically like a hub for the artists. Now, what about the community as a whole? Do you service the community from the events that you're mentioning? Is it something that you put out to the community to participate as audience members or beyond?
Mm-hmm. So it's a multi-pronged answer. We don't work in silos. At the end of the day, we know each other, we're friends, we're colleagues, and it's really all about partnerships. So to give you an example, for the opening of this year's Uptown Art Stroll, we held it at the United Palace. The closing we had at another venue at Harlem School for the Arts. We've partnered with venue spaces in parks or in other public spaces. Our workshop last year took place at Alianza Dominicana, so it really varies. These are places that either have worked with us in the past, or we reach out to them and work with them for the first time and start creating a working relationship.
That's wonderful. It's amazing how learning, and I hope you guys are learning how tight knit the actual Heights, the corridor, this particular corridor is within Washington Heights, because you all kind of help each other out in your respective fields. Yeah. And so in closing, is there anything you want to share with any artists or aspiring artists that are watching?
Yes, we actually have an open call right now, and it's for the Haven Plaza corridor, and it's a $7,000 award, so it's for materials and artist fee to design proposals for bollards or cement blocks in Haven Plaza. So check that out on nomanyc.org.
All right. Well, thank you for being here with us, Joanna.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, once again, to learn more about art opportunities, visit nomanyc.org. It's time to take a break and roll on into Victor's Bike Shop. Did you know Victor's Bicycles has been in Washington Heights since 1999? Meet
My first name is Victor, and my last name is De Leon. I've been in the neighborhood about for 20 years. This is my neighborhood. I started with a small truck, and I opened the store close to my neighborhood because every people know me and about the neighborhood here. In New York City, I got a more experience because in Dominican Republic, when the time I fixed the bicycle, have all the complications I have right now because the evolution of the bicycle is different. Before we use a bicycle for 3 speed, right now we use a bicycle for 28 speed, 26 speed, and the day sometimes 90, 80 people. The more in the summertime. We give it to my people a good service, good repairs that people go satisfied with the job that I do.
And now you know it's all in the Heights. Welcome back to Did You Know It's All in the Heights. I'm Rhina Valentin. We are celebrating successful staples in the community of Washington Heights. In 2000, our next guest took a leap of faith and brought positive change to the community by opening a bookstore. 7 years later, she added a cultural center component and since has become a resource center of exchange, providing education in a loving environment. Joining us to share more, please welcome Sisters Uptown Bookstore and Cultural Center proprietress Jennifer P. Wilson. Hello and welcome.
How are you?
I'm feeling really good today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Here you are, a woman with a vision who saw something that our community needed a very long time ago and have been able to sustain it. How did you even manage to make this happen just from the beginning? I mean, a bookstore, we're living in a society where everything kind of has like a name or a label or a brand that attracts the people's eyes and attention, whereas an independent bookstore that's created to really cater to the communities is a challenge to sustain. So just give me a little background on what has driven you to do so all these years and do it so well.
Yes. Well, it is indeed a challenge because we're in a residential area versus commercial. And so the challenge is to always have services or events that are bringing folk into the community versus a commercial space where people are always going and coming. So the challenge has been to always have something that's appealing to folk and that will bring folk into our community as well as folk who are already there. So we have an array of events that we offer on a regular basis. We have 2 poetry events, Poetry Speaks Us, which is also a writing workshop. And then we have poetry with music, jazz, combined with jazz and history. We have African Folk Heritage Circle, where these are national storytellers that come once a month to tell our stories and combine history with it. We have a children's book club, we have an adult book club, we have author signings, just whatever it is we can offer the community that will enhance who we are as a people, melanated people. That is what we offer. And so I think we can impart that as part of our success for the last 19 and a half years, because it's also spiritually connected to energy that exists in the, what I call still Sugar Hill component of our community, because there were so many ancestors that lived and embarked on that community, that their spirit and energy is still there. So that's what I embrace in what I do in the cultural center as well as the bookstore.
And so do you find that the next generation really needs to be walked into the importance of reading books?
Most definite, because you know we have the digital and the electronic age today, and so kids and young adults are you know, they just are attracted to that energy. And to me, what it does is it sort of doesn't leave the opportunity for us to connect as family, because before the digital age, we were actually sitting down and communicating and talking. And now with those devices, there's no communication. So the book itself, to turn pages in a book, takes you to a space of dream, of invention, of communication with self that I don't think those devices allow to happen. So I think folk who are avid readers can always appreciate a book. And I think young people are getting back to the basics of reading, but you have to meet them on their level. You have to make it exciting. You have to take away the chore of reading from them. And I think that's what the essence of what the bookstore does with the children's activities that we order, the children's book club, children's hour, young adult book club. It brings them back to a sense of our beginning. We didn't have those devices back then. And so now to bring them back to the love of turning pages and reading is so exciting for me. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to embark on that.
And you can tell that you really take a holistic approach just by that one reference you made, is the chore of reading, because that shifts the dynamic of how a person thinks about reading, right? Versus wanting to read.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what you provide in your space. I can feel it, and I look forward to the next event. And are there any last words you want to share with anyone who should visit Sisters Uptown?
Yes, I think Sisters is a place where we exchange information and ideals, and everybody that comes, there's an energy there that's exuded to have folk just want to stay there. They don't want to leave. It's like, I don't know what this energy is, but it meets me at the door. And I think it's spirit. I think it's an energy where the universe wants us to connect to each other through literacy. And so that's our premise. And I just tell people, come and witness it and experience it yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you guys, Sisters Uptown Bookstore and Cultural Center is located at 1942 Amsterdam Avenue on the corner of 156th Street. Make sure you go and experience it. And you can also follow them on FB, IG, and Twitter at Sisters Uptown. It's time to take a break and raise our health consciousness. Did you know Sano Health Foods has been in Washington Heights since 1974? Meet.
Mi nombre es José A. Nahar y llevamos en esta tienda justamente 40 años. La razón que Washington High, muchos compueblanos míos, gente que vinieron de la República Dominicana, y tanto ellos como quien les habla necesitaba aprender a vivir una vida saludable. Comenzamos hace como 12 años con el agua alcalina. También tenemos jugos naturales. ¿Qué le puede decir Sano Health? ¿Qué le puede aconsejar? Que asuma el control de su salud. Y la mejor manera de usted curar una enfermedad es evitarla. Espero que esto le satisfaga sus inquietudes y que yo pueda haber aportado algo a mi hermosa comunidad latina.
Hey, welcome back to Did You Know? It's All in the Heights. I'm your host, Rhina Valentin. We're celebrating the personal history of business community in the Heights. And at the age of 11, our next guest came to the United States to join family members residing in the very building that houses his family business. Malecon Restaurant, which opened its doors in 1987 with a second location opening in 1998 on 97th in Amsterdam. Jose Gomez grew from helping in the kitchen with dishes to being the general manager of both locations. Please welcome Malecon Restaurant General Manager Jose Gomez.
Thank you so much.
Hello and welcome.
How are you?
Welcome. You are an inspiration of a person to learn about, right? And so I want to open up with that because while you arrived at the age of 11, you actually started working for your family business at the age of 13, doing dishes.
Yes.
Or doing whatever they needed, right?
Yes, I'm the youngest out of 5. My older sister opened, and my oldest brother opened the restaurant in 1987. We came in 1988. And then everybody started working. My sister and my brother, they're older than me.
They're older. They're the ones who opened up the business. Yeah. And then once you came to the United States, they were like, bueno, you got to earn your keep. Tienes que trabajar. Vete a fregar.
They called me on Saturdays and said, okay, when I was 13. And I went downstairs and my sister said, handed me a map. I said, okay, clean the kitchen. And I said, okay. I didn't know how, but it was a big map. Restaurant kitchen. For a 13-year-old.
Right.
But that was the one of the 2 best lessons that my sister gave me that day. Well, that week. Because first the map, which implies you got to work hard. And okay, let's go work. And the second was at the end of the week, I went Saturday and Sunday, but I remember that week. And she gave me $60 on Monday or something like that. And she said, okay, Joselo, give 20 to your mother. You can keep 20 and save 20. So that's the way I had to do it. So
she taught you business as well. She taught you how to manage your finances, right? And then, of course, you earned your way up to the ranks.
Of course.
And you're the general manager now. I mean, obviously, this is very many years ago, but we're living in a day and age where I think the next generation needs to understand the value of contributing to whatever it is that your family's into. Because if you're subjected to something, you might as well learn how to do it. Even if you choose not to end up in that business, it's important to just build those values.
Of course, that was the best thing that happened to me again. And after school, I used to go upstairs, do my homework, eat something, and come downstairs, like at 7 to close the restaurants. At that time, 11, something like that. But the best lessons that we are teaching the next generation now, and the next generation of the waiters have children, girls and boys, and they are going over there 15, 16, 17, to boss boys and do something.
Right. So you're a family-oriented business.
So of course,
yes.
100%.
Right.
100%.
But overall, even with
100%.
your employees, I mean, obviously, yes. But in
as
addition, you've expanded into the community.
As soon as they're old enough, they can come, and it's so important that kids now have something to do after work, after school. Because yes, you have to go to school and you have to do your homework and do good in school, but something that you don't have space to go in the street.
Right.
And you don't have time to be in your PlayStation or whatever.
Right.
But you have to, and you.
The devices.
Of course.
Yeah, they're living in the devices.
And you get to get paid.
And and earn money on top of that. Absolutely. You know, I love.
And learn about money.
And learn about money, which is another factor. And I wanted to also ask, like, how old were you when they expanded to the other restaurant and opened up the second location?
I was about 19, 18.
And what was your role at that age?
At 18, I went to the outside, to the counter, and do deliveries and learning how to deal with people, deal with customers. And about 21, I took the reins of buying of the restaurant and doing some managerial stuff.
Like the inventory?
Inventory,
yes.
inventory to buy stuff. So, but then I had to learn how to do the math and, do what's good, what's bad. and know how to buy stuff for the restaurant.
Right, and economize based on whatever's selling and so forth. That's wonderful. It's really an inspirational story because now you're the general manager of both locations, and both these locations are staples within the West Side. I mean, obviously we're talking primarily about the one in Washington Heights. It's been there for over 30 years, right?
Yep.
And so,
long time.
How has it been for you growing up in that environment?
It's a teaching, it's a life lesson, I think, because it teaches you how to deal with employees, my coworkers. I have passed through so many people that have taught me, and I taught them how to do something simple. But with customers are always right, but you get to talk to them. It's a community.
It is a community.
It is a community. I seen little women that have got married, were pregnant, and they go to the Malecon. The kids are growing up going over there. And they're big, and they still go over there. I remember when I was a kid. They tell me, I remember when I was a kid and coming here with my mom.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's a generation thing.
It's a generational thing, and of course, Malecon means pier in Spanish, and the fact that you're able to maintain your culture in New York is also a factor because you're selling authentic Dominican cuisine, right?
Yes, of course.
Of course, pues claro. So, before we go, is there any last words you want to share with anyone regarding Malecon Restaurant?
Malecon Restaurant is a family-based restaurant that me and my family, I'm representing my family, is very, very dear to our hearts, and we care. We care about customers, we care about our employees. It's very family-oriented.
Right.
And we love for everybody to come and experience the love.
The experience.
The love first.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. And you guys, once again, if you're looking for authentic Dominican cuisine, be sure to stop by Malecon Restaurant, which is located at 4141 Broadway at 175th Street. And you can also follow them on Instagram at Malecon Restaurant. Leblanc Amides has been providing the Washington Heights community with fresh meats for over 30 years. And Keisha Harris, food editor for the Amsterdam News and entrepreneur of Shop, has the story. Let's take a look.
I'm at Leblanc here on Broadway, and I'm with Angel Barrio. What's the origins of Leblanc?
We've been here with the community for so many years, so we know what they really need. Meats, vegetables, you know, things that they need for like every single day. So you gotta bring things fresh for people and, you know, try to get the best prices for them.
So your products that you have are not just Dominican or Puerto Rican or Mexican or Brazilian. It's the amalgamation, almost of pan-Latin flavors that you bring here at Leblanc.
Well, it is very important because around here there's no more meat markets like for Spanish people. I mean, everything that is in the supermarkets is prepacked. We got everything fresh so people can come to the store and they can see the meat. We just cut them fresh for them. And I mean, we try to get all the products that they really need for the everyday meal. It's very important in this community.
Tell me a little bit why Washington Heights, when it started.
Well, because we speak Spanish, and most of the people around here is Latin, so they speak Spanish too. And that's why we decided to come here.
So what are some of the cuts that people mostly buy?
Oxtails, top sirloin, stew beef, shank. Most of the things that we have in the store, like chickens, drums, boiled eggs, wings, you know, it's something that people buy every day. Now on the weekends, we got the short ribs, we got the flank steak, we got the skirt, we got so many things that they use for barbecues.
What's the next 5 years for Leblanc?
Try to be the best we can with the customers. I mean, be the best with the people and, you know, keep the store like the way it is.
So Angel, thank you so much for having us today. I'm definitely going to be back and, you know, all of the amazing things that you have here. And it reminds me to tell you, did you know it's all in the Heights?
Well, welcome back to Did You Know? It's All in the Heights. I'm your host, Rhina Valentin. Our next guest is co-owner of the legendary restaurant, Coogan's, a civic fixture serving the community of Washington Heights for 33 years. Last year, they almost had to close their doors due to a massive rent increase, and it was because of the community's stand and love for the multicultural atmosphere. The doors remain open. And here now to share more, please welcome Coogan's co-owner, Peter Walsh. Hello.
Hi, Rhina. Good pleasure to be here.
Oh, we are so ecstatic for your presence just within the Washington Heights. But thank you for being here with us in studio as well. Now, let's share a little bit about what you had to go through and just I know we could sit here all day and talk about the history of Coogan's because you have so much history, but to hear that the community really took it upon themselves to make sure that they salvaged the situation is really admirable.
It was humbling. I mean, we were humble. We were gone.
Okay,
we were
well,
out of
how
the
did you
place.
end up being gone? Like, let's
well,
talk
I
about
mean,
that.
we were
gone.
told, you know, here's another $40,000 per month you need. You know, how much can you charge for a hamburger? So in our heads, we were gone. I had sold my apartment here in New York City, which I owned. My wife got ready to retire. That's how gone we were. This was not a plan. It was not a strategy. What took place was humbling. We were absolutely humbled by what was done for us.
So let's talk about the history of Coogan's, because you've been there so many years and you've, I guess, changed up the way you operate as an industry. I also understand it's referenced as a community center for the community, and I also understand you used to have like vaudeville shows in the back. I mean, you've gone through different generations of people within the community. So of course you were probably dealing with like grandmothers, aunts, the nephews, and the next generation. So let's give us a little history about Coogan's.
Well, you're right about the generation to generation, and it was grandmothers and mothers and their children, and who watched us grow, and we watched them grow. And what Coogan's is the people inside Coogan's. We adapt to what's there already, and we're just very fortunate not only having a bar that was integrated 35 years ago, always integrated, with the best of the best. And Washington Heights as a neighborhood, which was once an all Irish neighborhood, now a Dominican neighborhood, now next door to Harlem, it was owned by an Irish Catholics with Jewish doctors coming in. It was a mix of New York City. And you know, New York, they say, is a melting pot, but it's really not. It's a TV dinner. So the peas spill into the gravy, and the gravy spills in. But we were something where everything came together, and people who had opposing ideas on things socialized with each other and talked to each other. So that was very important to us. And again, Charlie Rangel once said to me, he goes, you know, iron can break very easily, but when you mix it up with different elements, it becomes steel. And that's what integration is. That's what the mix of New York City is. We're steel. Other places are iron, they break. We don't break.
I'm fascinated by your choice of referencing New York City, because we're talking about your establishment, and that's humbling right there, right? Because really what you're saying is that you're there to service the city, and the city comes in various colors. And obviously you made it a space that is very welcoming, that anyone who came in just kind of made it their place to go. How many years of that? I mean, you've been doing this for so many years, and you seem to still be just as excited as when you first opened.
Well, you know, the business of bartending or the business of owning a restaurant, it can be very mundane. We were lucky enough to have such an exciting neighborhood, and a neighborhood that came back and changed quickly, not just over a time of evolution, but it happened. You know, the good guys won, which were the neighborhood, which was the Dominicans, which were the African Americans, the Caribbean Americans, the Irish that were there, the Jewish that were there. Everybody won on this, and it was all good people with the same idea of the American dream. But you know, you said something very interesting, and where do you begin a conversation with people? And it's basically, you have to have, I believe, it's a vision of beauty. A vision of beauty unshared, beauty just dissipates. When you share it and you have this vision and you listen to other people's vision of it, everything becomes simpatico. There's no more, you know, political stance to it. You love your children, I love my children. We have something in common. And that's where Coogan's has always begun with things. What do we have in common? What are our common denominators? And the common denominators are still the same as the American dream. You know, people
Love it.
People
I
want
love
safety.
It's my favorite saying. I have a saying that says, I love finding similarities in differences. And so that's exactly what you're saying. And I love the phrase. And I also understand that you're a musician.
Yeah.
And I also understand you brought me a gift.
Yes. You know, here's a CD we did. These are songs I wrote since I was 19. And my kids never heard me sing, really. And I used to earn my living off singing. And love you to have it. It's called McComb's Dam Bridge. And it's named after one of the most beautiful bridges in New York. A lot of history there. It's the bridge that connected the Polo Grounds to the Yankee Stadium. So, I mean, a lot of great history there. But I love you to have this.
I appreciate that.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so, can people get the CD online or anything?
No.
No.
It's such a limited edition that you have to come to Coogan's, drink a whiskey, buy me one, and you can get one to bring home.
Sounds like a deal.
Yeah, you got to do business somewhere along the line.
Yeah, good going. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And thank you for being here.
I love it.
Oh gosh, you guys, once again, to visit Coogan's, you got to visit Coogan's for some tasty dishes and of course a drink. Please make sure to visit 4015 Broadway at 169th Street, and you can also follow them on Instagram and Twitter at Coogan's NYC. We hope you enjoyed our trip through Northern Manhattan, celebrating legacy businesses in Washington Heights. And remember to meet your neighbors while supporting local businesses. I'm Rhina Valentin, and now you know it's all in the Heights. Adios.
Remember what it did to you. Be tender, be tender, be tender with the truth. I remember what it did to you. Be tender.